Selling lies and buying time, killing people next in line. Lower classes, social slime, they don't matter. Genocide, sick from water, sick from air. Making money, they don't care. Caesar shit, force of air. Fuck them back, it's only for they bomb. They shoot, they kill, they massacre, rape. They burn the kids, no one lives countries. Lie to your face, fight and die, 'cause God forgives. Selling lies and buying time, killing people next in line. Lower classes, social slide, they don't matter. Genocide, sick from water, sick from air. Making money, they don't care. See their shit, force a bear. Fuck them back, that's only fair. They bomb, they shoot, they kill, they massacre, rape. They burn the kids, no one leaves countries. Lie to your face, fight and die, 'cause God forgives. Yeah. Coming back around again.
Welcome to the show. I'm your host, Ron Stevens. This is Rock the Boat here, right here on on ECY.TV, and your host for the next hour. I'm going to bring in my guest right now. I was talking to him earlier today, and he's some pissed about what's going on in Canada. Anyways, Barry Prince out of Terrace, BC. And I'll bring him in here. I got Chris in here with me, so maybe I don't have to talk at all. Who knows? Barry. Oh, he's not hooked up yet. Barry, I got you?
I'm here.
Okay, so you're the young man from Terrace, BC.
Well, I'm not a young man.
What?
Well, I'm not exactly a young man.
Well, compared
unless
to
you call 63 young.
Well, I'm 63, and I consider it young.
Okay, well, I mean, we're on the other. We're on the downside. We're still not old, but we're still like we're not young.
My uncle's quite active, and he's going to be 90 tomorrow.
Well, I'm picking mushrooms and playing hockey, so.
Yeah, he's still gardening and hiking around, and
yeah, you got to keep active, or else you'll die.
That's right. So, age is a what do you call it? Mindset. I know lots of guys my age that I hung out with when I was a kid who I consider old men, but I ain't one of them. Well, I mean, they go to the store and they buy lottery tickets and they go watch the hockey game, and I mean, there's nothing going on, right? That makes you old. You got to stay active mentally.
Well, you do. The wintertime, it's a little harder for me. I play hockey 3 times a week. That keeps me pretty active. But the wintertime, I'm not picking mushrooms. In the summertime, I'm in the bush all the time.
So, like at 63, you're playing hockey. What do you got, like electronic hockey or what?
No, I'm a goalie, buddy. I
get out on the ice. Put skates on.
I get the skates on, and I go out there and flop around the ice and stop the puck.
Well, with the new robots. Well, yeah, but with the new robots coming, you can just sit on the bench and steer them around out there.
Well, they're going to put me out. They're definitely going to put me out of my job. I know that. I can see that. It'll be a little hard to compete with those guys, from what I can see.
Anyways, you're not too happy about what's going on in the country right now.
Are we on the air right now, by the way? We're not live right now, are we?
We are, so.
Oh, I didn't know your show had started.
Yeah, we're on.
Okay, well, there you go.
But just before we get going, I got a notice just before airtime that apparently it's Trans Neutral Day or something today.
What day?
Trans Neutral.
I must have missed that. What's
I,
that all about?
yeah, I don't know. I didn't look at any news today. So, I don't know what Trans Neutral Day is. I'm expecting our rainbow sidewalk to show up in my little town probably within the next year. And
Well,
then,
we already spent our $20,000 on our rainbow sidewalks around town out of the wisdom
have
of
you
our
got
town
them
council.
there?
Oh yeah, we spent $20,000 painting sidewalks around town. Isn't that great?
No, it ain't great.
No, it ain't great. Of course, I'm being facetious. I didn't vote to spend 20 grand on sidewalks for 3% of the population have this agenda.
Exactly.
I didn't vote for that.
If they paint one here, I think I'll just go paint it. I don't know what solid color, black, whatever. No, I can't put up with crap like that. I mean, it's beyond. How big's Terrace?
About 19,000 approximately, give or take.
Yeah, in my little town.
It's not a big town. It's kind of the major hub, though, for the north here, between Prince Rupert and Kitimat.
Were you anywhere near Nelson? No, that's over.
No, Nelson, way down southern BC, down the Kootenays.
Yeah.
Nelson is a funky little town. I love Nelson.
Is it?
Oh yeah, it's like going back into the past, man. Anybody been ever in Nelson? You go downtown Nelson, all the buildings are 100 years old. So it's a really funky town.
Cool. Anyways, we were talking about how we're going to get the word out to people that they need to stand up, or at least understand what's going on in this country. And I don't know, a lady from Calgary, I have a couple ladies in Calgary calling every now and again, and they were actually instrumental in getting the fluoride out of the water in Calgary, and they've been going to the town hall or the city hall for a long time till when it dawned on them that they don't care what we say in here. It's closeted, right? It's not getting out of here. So they started making up posters and cards and that with the councillors' names on it, with their home phone numbers, and putting them on bus stops wherever they could put them, and just told them to phone the councillor at home and ask them why they're poisoning the family, and that worked. And then they pulled the fluoride out. So the whole point is, shine the light on these guys and put the heat to their feet. And
well, the city of Prince George was successful in doing the same thing, but they went about it a different way, and it's a way that we're going to go after our council here in the very next 3 weeks from now. We have a meeting with council, but we're going after the legal implications, because actually we're on sodium fluoride, and I went right to Health Canada and I went to their website and I got their official classification. Is that people have to realize that when sodium fluoride is added to our water, it's added as a medicine to fight the disease of tooth decay. That's the official word from Health Canada. So therefore, it is classified as a medicine. In other words, the city councils that are putting fluoride into our water are force medicating many members in our public here that are standing against fluoride against their will. Now, that contradicts the Nuremberg trials of 1947. It contradicts the Geneva Convention. It also contradicts our rights, our Charter of Rights and Freedoms.
Yeah,
and this is the approach we're going. You cannot force medicate the public against the public's will. And if people go to Health Canada's website and do the research that I did, you can talk to the representatives there, and they'll direct you right to the website where it's clearly stated that when fluoride is added, sodium fluoride, which is artificial fluoride, is added to our water to fight the disease of tooth decay, which is what the councils are doing, it's officially classified as a medicine. So they're contradicting 3 major statutes, and that can take it out of the water right now. And that's the approach we're going with, and that's the one the city of Prince George went with, and they were successful in getting fluoride out of their water.
That sounds excellent. I mean, Health Canada didn't classify it as the poison it is. And it really doesn't do anything for tooth decay, but
ingesting fluoride is like drinking sunshine lotion to go to the beach. It's absolutely ludicrous to take a neurotoxin and ingest it and infect that little bit of fluoride is going to come through and get into your bone structure. Well, the U.S. just lowered their rates of fluoride by 50% because of the mass oncoming of fluoride fluorosis. 48%, I think it is, or more, of American children are suffering from fluoride fluorosis.
Yeah.
which is, of course, calcium being removed from your teeth. The only thing that does that is sodium fluoride. So if it's doing that to your teeth, what's it doing to the rest of the organs in your body? Come on,
Yeah,
duh.
was-
It doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure it out. Go ahead, Ron.
I was reading that they want to change out the fluoride for lithium, which is just another make you dozy and non-combative drug. Whether they're going to put it in our water or not, I'm not sure. I understood they were putting it in Japan's water, or thinking about it. They just don't want anybody getting too sparky out there, because if they take all the fluoride out and people come to their senses and get off the vaccines, they might just stand up and say, "What the hell are you doing to our country?"
Well, what's it going to take, Ron? They've got us to a point now where we're so dumbed down. Canadians are I am just infuriated what I see going on in my country. And I can't believe that Canadians cannot see what is going on in my country. Our country. I'm fighting right now for our kids. I know you are. You see it all.
Yeah.
And you know what's going on. It's just absolute insanity, Ron.
But
especially the last move that Trudeau just made. Go ahead.
Well, this happened to me way back in the 70s. I had Americans moved up to Canada. I was out in the West Coast then, the Vancouver area, and we had a marketing company, and I would be talking to people, and they would ask me what part of the States I was from. This was way back in the 70s. And I go, "I'm not American," and they look at me and they go, "Well, you can't be Canadian." And I go, "Why not?" And they go, "Well, they're really nice people, and it's a beautiful country, but these are the most docile people on the freaking planet. And, it must be hard for you." It is. It was then.
Lithium is an antidepressant.
What's that?
Lithium is an antidepressant. So how could they ever justify putting something like that in the drinking water?
Well, there was reports, I think it was Japan, were considering...
What benefit that would be?
Because they don't
have to explain that.
Well, the point was to keep people from not getting too uppity, right?
Well,
make them docile.
We know I've seen the studies on fluoride and its effect on IQ in the human being, and that alone, right now, there's just a major lawsuit launched against the EPA in the United States by a conglomerate of 4 different organizations that are standing against fluoride, and they are now being forced into doing full-scale toxicology studies on the effects of fluoride, which has never been done before. There's never been any major studies on the toxicity of sodium fluoride ever done before. But this now has been brought forward. Ron, I'm in touch with FAN, which is the Fluoride Action Network, one of the biggest networks fighting fluoride in North America right now. And this lawsuit has been launched, and it's huge. And it's a conglomeration. I urge people to get behind this organization. You can find them on the internet. It's called FAN, Fluoride Action Network. And really get behind what they're doing right now, because they're making tremendous strides in bringing public awareness to the toxicity of sodium fluoride, which of course is a byproduct of industrial waste, man. It's from the scrubbers of aluminum factories.
I know,
it's just
and we
insanity.
don't. Why would we do a study? Just tell them it was good for their teeth and put it in the water.
Well, that's it. But Ron, that's the start. Okay. Now, if a unbiased, peer-reviewed, double peer-reviewed studies done on the toxicity of fluoride, then the cat will be out of the bag.
Well,
and people will be going.
Calgary
People will be demanding it taken away.
Calgary with their Muslim mayor there, they are just before, as the election was going on, all of these new studies came out saying that fluoride is absolutely necessary, and the children's teeth are going to hell because the fluoride's out of the water. Calgary's compared to Edmonton, so they're pushing to put it back in again. Because I think people in Calgary are starting to wake up. But I read a report. I can't really. It was a UN report on national sovereignty, and they had a picture there of Trudeau standing at the podium, and he had a dollar bill up his nose, and he was snorting something, and I thought it was cocaine, but I later found out that it was fluoride, powdered fluoride. And a lot of people wondering why Trudeau's doing what he's doing. Well, he was a drama teacher and a snowboard instructor, and he apparently snorts powdered fluoride. So this is exactly who they want, so they can just say, hey, stupid, say this. Okie dokie.
You know what, Ron? I have to watch the guy talk. I'm at a point now where I feel violently ill when I watch him speak. When I hear anything coming out of that man's mouth, it's almost like I have a gag reaction. And it's one that I'm fighting because I got to listen to what this guy's saying, but only because it's unbelievable bull crap that's coming.
The only thing that he said that is of any importance as far as I'm concerned is that he said, I think it was 2015, that Canada is the first post-national state. Now, if people can't wrap their brain around that, I don't know what it's going to take. Okay, we're not a sovereign nation. We're a United Nations satellite office, and whatever they want us to do, we're doing. Or we're not doing, but the politicians are doing. So, I mean, Harper was very clear about it in 2010 at the G20, which people don't understand. But the G20 is a private company. It was set up by two bankers, and Paul Martin was involved in it. They think it's this great conglomerate. It's just a private freaking company. But at that meeting, Harper said this is a loss of national sovereignty. And then at the University of Ottawa, Martin said we all have to give up some of our sovereignty to make the world work. And then Trudeau comes along in 2015 and says we're the first post-national state. And yet people think there's a difference between the right and the left. Well, it's a boot on each tyrannical leg, but other than that, because right, left, right, that's they're marching you somewhere, and you don't want to end up there. Anyways, I had someone else leave a message and said, "What's the topic tonight?" So I said hemp, and the response I got back, that is an extremely important subject. So do you want to play with that a bit, or do you want to?
We can go anywhere you want, Ron. We get into hemp, and of course, it's probably one of my favorite subjects to talk about because it truly, the Rick Simpson. I gotta give him credit because I met Rick through internet radio about almost 5 years ago, and he really kind of opened my eyes up to what can be done with hemp/cannabis. I never like to use the word marijuana. I try not to use that word anymore in my vocabulary because it's not marijuana. It never was prior to 1939, but that's another story altogether. But, I get talking about this, and I look at everything that can be done with hemp on our planet right now to offset what we see going on our planet. And that, of course, is the death of our planet. Our biosphere is under attack. Our oceans are under attack. We are seeing the fastest and the most mass die-off of species that we've ever experienced in our recorded human history. And it's accelerating. And people think that everything's just going to be okay. And I'm telling you that it's not going to be okay. But that what we're seeing right now is a real breakdown in systems. And eventually it's going to come to a point where it snaps. And the food chain is a very intricate part of our world. And when we continue to take mass pieces out of the food chain like we are, eventually that food chain is going to get to a point that's going to snap. And I don't want to see that happen, Rod, because we're going to see mass starvation. And then hemp comes into the picture, and it can change everything that we're doing destructive to this planet right now. Could be turned around.
We could have done it. They could have been doing it all along, right? I mean, it was the United Nations that turned hemp into a Class 1 drug, right, which put everybody in jail forever. So, this wonderful outfit, the United Nations, is exactly the outfit that kept hemp from being used the way it was supposed to be used. So what I just want to interject this, when you're talking about the destruction of the planet and that, the ones that are destroying the planet is not Joe Average. He doesn't have the capacity, okay? The guys that are driving the environmental movement are the exact guys that are destroying the planet. And they withheld our use of hemp. And people, I mean, it's legal in Canada now, industrial hemp is, but lots of places in the States, Australia's still not legal. They're withholding that. And they're telling you to plant trees when, 1 acre of hemp will build you your house.
Yeah, it'll do it for 50 years in a row while that acre of land is regrowing the trees that are necessary to be reharvested.
Well,
I mean, you can study an acre of land.
90 days to grow the hemp, and what, 30 years to grow a tree?
Well, exactly. You can go in that 50-year period that tree is going back to maturity. You can do 150 crops of high-grade industrial hemp. You'll produce 600 times the amount of fiber off that acre of land as if you were conventionally harvesting trees. We know we need to stop harvesting trees because we're seeing a breakdown in the oxygen systems in the world, and that's a fact. And that mainly, Ron, is because of the studies. I've done a lot of studies on our plankton counts in the ocean. And and I know that plankton provides 60% of the oxygen that we breathe on this planet. And studies these are government studies, and a lot of it's bullshit. We know that. A lot of it's not truth. But I've kind of read 3 or 4 major studies on the plankton counts in the ocean. And estimates are that we've lost 50% of the plankton that were alive in the ocean in the 1970s. That's affecting our oxygen, and trees are the next thing.
Right, but if you do deeper study, you will find that they're throwing shit in the oceans and this and that is purposely destroying the coral reefs, purposely destroying the plankton. They're trying to, the ones that control the earth are trying to basically break it. I mean, they want to depopulate. They want to break the back of whatever they can, so that they can say the planet cannot service that many people. These are very devious dogs, man. And if they weren't involved, right, the planet would be fine.
Well, of course, and to try to explain to people that these people really think like this, and that there's actually people on this planet that think that have this agenda, that they want to see the population depopulated to a certain point, and this is how they're going to justify. Most people can't even begin to wrap their minds around that, Ron. Well, these people actually walk the earth, but they do.
Here's a perfect example. Morris Strong and David Ruckelshaus, right? He was the head of EPA, and Morris Strong was the head of United Nations Environmental Program. And he had that Baca Ranch, with a big reservoir underneath of it. And the EPA guy, Morris Strong, and the Jewish family, I forget what their name is, out of Montreal, I think, and a few other people, these people are telling you to use less water and yada, yada, yada. And what did they try to do? They tried to suck that aquifer dry and sell it for money. And George Hunt caught on to this and went and talked to the ranchers and said, what happens if these guys start pulling this millions of cubic feet of water out of here? He says, we're done. And they had to take the 2 environmental guys to court to shut down the water extraction, of which they were doing for profit. Right. So, the environmental movement is not what people think it is. Not even close.
Well, all I know, Ron, is the studies I read shock me. And there's got to be a turning point here where I think people have to become aware that things aren't always going to be the way they are if we keep going down this path. And well, we do have the answers. We do have the answers, but it's going to take. I don't know what it's going to take for people to embrace the hemp plant widespread in our society. Our government will stop it. Our government will stop it till the end. Go ahead.
No, they're not going to stop nothing. I mean, this is the same as Michael Schmidt with the milk. I told him, I don't know how many times, why are you trying to get this legalized? Okay, the government didn't create the cow. The government didn't create the milk. The government didn't create the grass. Okay, and they only the legal system only has control over what they create. They didn't create any of that stuff. Okay, so just go to law, right? Which is the law your creator gave you. Don't cause any harm and treat your neighbor the way you'd like to be treated, and give them the middle finger. And this is what we got to do. I mean, we're going to be stuck in this mess forever if we don't learn to just give them the middle finger, right?
Yeah, it's called time for civil disobedience, Ron.
It is, because the interesting thing about the hemp is that I think they call it the herd or whatever, which is the center core or whatever, the coarse piece, is what they're using to build the houses with. But then I'm not an expert on hemp, but there's an awful lot of different strands and layers in this thing that are used for different purposes, right?
Yeah, there's actually studies being done on hemp as a superconductor right now in Europe.
Oh, really?
I mean, the uses of the plant. The thing about hemp, we're only really touching. I mean, it has been used for thousands of years in human history, and it was taken away from us in the turn of the century by a group of people that had no use for hemp in our society. That's another story to get into. But
Right.
the fact is that there's so many uses to this plant that we're not even, the public is not even aware of. So really, to me, it comes down right now to educating people as much as we can on all the benefits of getting into a hemp-based society. If we really kind of sit back and think about the future and what kind of a mess we're going to leave our children, and we can make tremendous changes right now on the planet, but it's going to take the rise of people in civil disobedience saying to the government that we're not going to take your nuclear power anymore, we're not going to take your fossil-based fuels, we're going to complete green, regenerating society that has no impact on the planet and will actually cleanse the earth. And that's what we can do with the hemp plant. It's amazing what it can do.
You know, Henry Ford
if we
built
embrace
that
it.
car in, 42, I think it was? He built that hemp car?
It was earlier than that. It was they built a car made of hemp in 1920. Henry Ford did in 1924, I believe it was. Actually, Henry Ford was going to base all fuels on a hemp-based ethanol fuel. That was going to be all our fuel for all our automobiles going forward when the internal combustion engine came along, and that's what he saw coming. And that, of course, was quashed. That was all quashed, run by the oil companies, because oil was big money at that point. And of course, we got into the time when cannabis was demonized. Along came reefer madness, and the word marijuana was attached to it. Which, you know, cannabis prior to 1939 was never called marijuana.
Well, you think
it
about
was
it.
a slang word attached to the plant to demonize it.
Yeah, you think about it. It was the Rothschilds, the Rockefellers, and all these people that put the
Chase Morgan.
Yeah, all those guys that put the bankers, the oil guys, the lawyers, everybody who brought us the League of Nations and then the UN, and they wanted to put a stop to hemp, and they just classified it as a Class 1 drug. How the hell do you compare marijuana? And they weren't talking about marijuana. It was industrial hemp. So they took industrial hemp and the high THC hemp or marijuana plant and put the two in the same bucket. And then we come out with our movie. What the hell was that movie about weed?
Reefer Madness.
Reefer Madness, freak everybody out, right? And then they put a stop to all industrial hemp growth. And that really actually put us way, way, way behind where we should be today, because had we had the use of the hemp all the way through, we wouldn't be trying to create hemp products now. They'd already be here long time ago.
Well, Ron, if hemp had been widespread use in our society right from the get-go, we wouldn't have nuclear power, we wouldn't have oil, we wouldn't have the problems we're having with plastic. All our products would be made with hemp. We can make a plastic now with hemp that'll break down and become part of the earth 5 months, I believe it, after the date of manufacturing. You can take this plastic product and put it in the ground and it becomes part of the earth. Well, all that needs to change, because plastic right now is just killing our planet, man. It's killing the oceans. Unbelievable. You open up fish's stomachs and they're full of plastic. Why? Because the amount of food available to the fish now in the ocean is dwindling. And they're eating plastic, and it's unbelievable. You open up the whale's stomach, and it's full of plastic. Well, that's a scourge in society that has to come to an end. Our landfills are full of this, and it's not going to break down for 10,000 years. Well, this is what oil has brought us.
This is what I'm saying. The guys in charge of the environmental movement, which are the bankers, the lawyers, the oil guys, they are, on one hand, telling you have to be sustainable, and on the other hand, we're not going to let you be sustainable, right? I mean, come on. I mean, this is a big scam going on here. So we got to learn to tell these people, just shove off and get out of our lives, right? Canada, we actually, instead of embracing hemp and pushing it as fast as we can, they're always talking about, we're going to be a leader in wind energy. No, you're not. That's a scam. Okay, now here you have a product, or you have a plant that has just an unlimited number of uses. This is an opportunity for this nation to go big into hemp production, go big into hemp products, because apparently, somebody else made a new. It's a hemp car body, but it's equal to a carbon fiber body, right?
Super
extraordinarily strong, extraordinarily light. And so we can do this, and we should. The government should be, if the government's putting out money for this, that, and the other thing, but putting a stymie on what should be funded. I look through some of the hemp products they're working on, and it's really slow because they don't have the funding, they don't have the laboratories to work with it. We could be so far ahead of the rest of the world in hemp production, and the more you look at it, the fact you can grow, it takes 3 months to grow,
and it's a weed. It'll grow anywhere.
And you don't
strong.
spray the crop because it grows so freaking fast. No weed can catch up and get ahead of it, and it grows like 16 feet high. So you don't need any pesticides. You don't need any fertilizers. You don't need nothing. Plant the thing, let it grow, cut it down, and make what the hell you want out of it.
Not only that, Ron, if it was done properly, a field that has industrial hemp on it, if you grow a crop of industrial hemp on a field for 2 or 3 years, then turn around and grow a conventional crop of anything that you want to grow on that field, your crop will grow 30 to 40% faster because of what industrial hemp, how the root systems work on industrial hemp, how deep those roots get into the soil, and how they release microbes that are never released through normal plowing, through normal planting situations on an acre of land. That's something that people, unbelievable benefits of it. So if it was done right and circulated properly, man, the food production, you go into food production on that field for 2 years and boom, back to industrial hemp. If it was done properly, our food would be 30-40% better and faster grown than it is right now, and much more beneficial to us.
Our food,
with no pesticides.
The nutrients in our food now are, I said 60% of what they were when my grandfather was growing it, but then somebody told me it's closer to 50% now. So, well, it looks like a carrot. Well, they don't even look like carrots anymore. But you know what I'm saying? It looks like a tomato, but it's not really got the benefit of a real tomato. And everything's sprayed to death with fertilizer. We're absolutely destroying. And again, those are the very guys that are funding the environmental movement. The guys with the pesticides and all the rest of this stuff. We got to put all this stuff. We got to grow GMO crops to feed the planet, right? They're all part of the environmental movement. They're all the ones that are puking off about sustainability, and they're the least sustainable group of people on the planet. And people don't get that. I really don't think they get that. These guys are absolute experts at confusing people. It's no different than legal and law. If you interchange the word legal and law enough times, pretty soon people think they're the same thing. Right, and it's the same thing with this environmental movement. The both guys, they control both sides of this game, and we need to get rid of them completely. And we need to get back to. You look at the sickness in the people, Barry?
Unbelievable, Ron. We're the sickest. We're the sickest nations in the world now. The United States and Canada.
Yeah.
We lead the world in most disorders. We're number 2 in cancer now.
Yeah, we're poisoning the hell out of it.
ADHD, Alzheimer's, and fibromyalgia, all the disorders we lead the world in. Great, eh?
Not something to be proud of.
In 1970, we were the healthiest nations in the world, Ron. That's a fact.
Well,
so what's changed?
Let's see, what year would that have been? Probably 67, somewhere in there. But I mean, we grew up in the Ottawa Valley. We were always outside. We just weren't inside people. And we're either in the rivers and the lakes, or we're out in the bush. We're playing ball. We were always outside. And we used to be able to go out and drink from the creeks, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And then around when I was about 12, which would have been around 67 or somewhere in there, all of a sudden they started spraying the fields. They'd never sprayed the fields. And our creeks that we used to drink out of all of a sudden were full of foam.
Or there'd be fish dying.
Yeah. And we went down to visit our some family members in Sarnia, so we went down along the 401. We stopped at Long Lake, Ontario, and I'm not kidding you. The foam was about, I don't know, 1.5 feet high. Dead fish all over the beach. It was that phosphorus or whatever from the soaps or whatever. And but our crops in that have been poisoned ever since. Which means that the ground has been sucking this poison up, and it's screwed. So we need to cleanse the soil.
Yes, we do.
And
that's where industrial hemp comes in, buddy, because it'll do that.
I saw a thing on hemp, and it showed the root system, and the way that the root system fractures the ground basically to get it aerified or aerated. And that the fibers off those roots put so much good in the soil. So just like you were saying, I mean, it preps the soil for a crop.
Well, Ron, they've done studies on soil that's been heavily contaminated with oil, with industrial hemp, and found incredible results. It's the same thing with soil that contains nuclear isotopes. They've planted industrial hemp with that soil and found in 2 years the nuclear isotopes are non-existent. Well,
really?
You know, we've been spraying this planet with tons and tons of glyphosate for years and years and years, and people really have to go on the internet and do an unbiased study on glyphosate and the effects on the biosphere, the very biosphere of this planet. Glyphosate is showing up in all our foods, all our water. It is showing up everywhere, and it is a poison. And they continue to spray our land with this. We need to stop it all right now. They're spraying chemicals in our sky that are ending up in our soil. Our plants are toxic. Our food is toxic. We are becoming so sick from the food. People that are living in a city, I go, they don't have a choice. They are eating what's brought to the grocery store. And if they follow the chain of command down, find out where that food's coming from and how much pesticide's been sprayed on that food and what they're exactly eating. And like you said, Ron, a tomato, it might look red, it might taste like a tomato when you eat it out of the store, but it has absolutely no phytochemicals in it, because a tomato will get all its phytochemicals in the last 3 or 4 days of its growth. When it gets to the point of being vined ripe, that is the most critical time to harvest a tomato, because it's full of phytochemicals. But a tomato that's shipped to a grocery store is shipped when it's green. It turns red on the way there. It kind of looks, like you said, looks like a tomato, tastes like a tomato. You think you're eating something good, yet there's absolutely no nutrients in it. And the same thing applies to a good percentage of the vegetables you're eating right now.
Well, the carrots they're selling in our grocery stores in this town now look like a small log. They're super long, and they're the same same diameter from one end to the other, right?
Yeah, almost like a log.
Yeah, these aren't carrots. They're orange, but other than that, a carrot. When you ate a carrot before, it tasted like a carrot, and a tomato, I mean, your mouth just exploded with taste, right? Whatever you were eating. And now you eat a piece of tomato, there's really nothing going on there. Once in a blue moon, I'll get a carrot that actually tastes somewhat like a carrot. They're fake food, And we need to we got to take control of our country. I mean, you think about it, the second biggest landmass country on the planet, population smaller than the state of California, and we can't even feed ourselves in this country anymore. The amount of food coming in out of China and that is getting ridiculous. We make nothing here. We really don't grow any real food here. We poison the land. We poison the water. And we should be disgusted with ourselves. And we got to clean this mess up.
Well, we're kind of leaving a big mess for our kids to clean up right now, the way I see it, Ron. And, sure, we're all complacent. We've all been complacent to a certain point in our life, allowed this to go on. But, myself, now that I understand what's going on and how bad we're being poisoned, how bad our bodies are being attacked through multi-levels, through government agenda and government programs and our food programs and what we're actually eating and what they're feeding to us. It's just unbelievable what they're putting into our water. I mean, my God, man, our bodies, our immune systems now, if you take the immune system of a man now and compare it to the immune system of a man in the 60s, I think the numbers are like we're 38% or almost 40% depletion in immune response in the human beings in that period of time. Well, we've got to look at everything that's caused it, Ron, all the chemicals in our society. I mean, it's just unbelievable. So it's going to take an education for people to stand up against this, but if we don't, we're just getting sicker.
I tell people, like people say, well, you were supposed to do something. Yeah, you're supposed to do something. Because if you don't do something, somewhere down the road, one of your grandchildren or your great-great-great-grandchildren or whatever are going to find a CD or a book somewhere, and they're going to read it and realize that we didn't do anything when we were supposed to, and that their lives are useless now. And they're going to stand over your grave and ask you a simple question. That is, why didn't you do something?
Amen, Ron. You couldn't have said it better. I mean, really, do we want to look our children in the face in 10 years from now and say, look, we knew about this, but we didn't do anything about it? And as corny as it sounds, I can't do that. I have to, now that I'm aware of all these things, at least try and share my thoughts and my feelings with other people. And maybe they'll realize that it's time to get seriously involved in any way they can themselves. Because if we don't, really, folks, our kids are really going to pay the price. And what I see coming, Ron, I wouldn't wish on my worst enemy, buddy.
Well, no, and the enemy's inside the gate, and it is our job to run the enemy out or contain the enemy. But I don't know. It's getting on tough love time. When I got those two guys to run in the 2010 election, neither one wanted to run. One guy was 65 and run 20 years before, and this is the attitude. I'm 65. I'm just going to be on my deck and, ride my bike and whatnot and then wait for my dirt nap. I said, Christ, man, you're only 65. But he had a new grandchild, and I really wanted him to run. And he just said, no. I says, okay, get on your bike or get in your truck, go to Toronto, spend a weekend with your new grandchild. Keep playing with your grandchild all weekend. Keep looking in that grandchild's eyes and keep telling that grandchild that Grandpa knows what's cooking, but he ain't got no spine. And then come back here and talk to me. And I did it to a guy who had 3 young children, moved out of Hamilton to get him out of the city. And same thing, he was pissed off because he'd being surrounded by windmills after he bought the property. And I said, well, you can bitch and complain till you're blue in the face, but, go do something like running the election, right? And we're the biggest excuse makers on the planet, right, in Canada. We make an excuse not to do something forever. So I told him the same thing. I said, you just go and you play with your kids, and you keep looking them in the eye, and you keep telling them Daddy knows what's up, but he ain't got no spine. He got really pissed at me and told me to F off and hung up, and called me about a week later. He said, I'm still pissed at you, but what do I got to do? And so he ran. And, we just are so good at making excuses in this country. It's ridiculous. Oh, somebody else will do it. I don't want to get involved in it. Not my problem. I don't know how many people I've heard from their 50s up. Oh, by the time they get all this in place, I'll be long dead and gone, right? So you don't give a shit about nobody, right? You don't care about your kids. You don't care about your grandkids. You don't care about their kids. They've taken the family away here in Canada, in the West. They've taken the family away. There's no family connections anymore.
Of course, that's been going on for many years, Ron, and that's all by design, of course.
It's all part of the plan, yeah.
It's all part of the plan. You divide, you destroy the family unit in any society, and the society falls apart. What do we see happening right now? The destruction of the family union. and that's through multiple levels of attack. You're absolutely spot on when the people right now that if people really knew what was at stake for their grandchildren, how you can go day by day living your life knowing that this shit is coming for our kids and not do something about it is beyond me. To me, there's nothing more important in my life right now, Ron. There isn't, because I have I got two beautiful granddaughters. I got a grandson. I've got another granddaughter, and I look at them and I go, "Wow, look at the shit."
What kind of position are we going to be in 20 years from now if we don't get
10 years?
10 years
from now, Ron.
Yeah.
Things are accelerating very quickly as far as the breakdown of systems.
They've pulled the plug now. It's full. And our lieutenant governor here in Ontario was the head of the United Nations Environment Program. Strong. And video out there on YouTube, and she just saying, "I'm sick of this incrementalism. Let's just get it done." Right? I mean, they've pulled the plug. Right? They're coming at us full bore now.
Yeah, they are. They're pulling out all the stops, and what's going on in Ottawa right now. It's like every day I expect another unbelievable crap bullshit story coming out of Ottawa, and they don't fail me because it's every day something that just blows my mind this Liberal government is doing. Canadians really, really have to watch and wake up and stand up against Trudeau and his criminals right now, because they are destroying this country, Ron.
Well, all of this stuff was put in place before Trudeau ever got to office.
I know that, but he right now is the major figurehead accelerating it.
He's the monkey with the better hairdo, I guess. I don't know. I mean, his wife. You're paying attention. Now, there's a nutcase.
Sophie. Right? Oh yeah.
I mean, this woman's crazy. I don't know, but so Trudeau's mother's nuts. So Sophie and her mother-in-law probably get along really well together. I mean, it's bad.
Well, we all know the stories about Margaret.
It's really, really bad, and it's really unfortunate that nobody wants to jeopardize their employment. That's the problem, and they got to get over that. We have your job is not going to go away. Okay, we just need to get on the right track again. We got to get a real education curriculum going, not this nonsense they call education today. We have to get back to manufacturing. So my wife saw a picture on the internet or something of some appliances. They're 50 years old, and they're still running, no problemo. And this is what we used to build in this country. And now, the same guys that are pushing the environmental be sustainable, these are the same guys that set up the factories in China that are sending your refrigerators and that last on an average of 7-8 years. They're about, as Morris Strong said, I believe in capitalism for me and my friends and socialism for everybody else. So the socialism is they eat good food, you eat poison food. They use all the water and electricity they want, but you can't. So there is no shortage in this country. Everybody in this country ought to be, really living in Shangri-La. We got to get back to growing our own food properly. We need to get back to manufacturing the products that we use here. And you will have full employment. You will have good employment. We got to kick this phony bank out of here. Maybe we should use hemp as our
base economy, buddy.
The base economy money. Base our economy on hemp, which would be a lot better than debt notes. If the rest of the world fell away, we'd do fine. It's the rest of the world
we have
their agendas upon us is crushing us.
I think we have an opportunity to really kind of get people involved in the new hemp industry, because like we talked before the show here earlier today, Ron, about the company in Calgary that's going full bore and how they're expanding, and really if people sat down and really looked at the benefits of growing or building a house with hemp as opposed to conventional materials, we could sit down and give you 4 hardcore facts in 2 minutes that would want you to build with hemp. And of course, the one being that most of our building materials now emanate poisons into our air. That's a fact. All wood will create black mold. That's a fact. That's a major problem. Our houses burn like crazy when you light a match to them. Hemp will not burn. You can build a house that doesn't burn. You can build a house that will last 600 years, that you could pass down through 30 generations of your family, and in 600 years from now, that house would be just as strong and just as vibrant as the day it was built. Hence, we stop deforestation of the planet. To me, that is something that has to come to a stop.
Well,
forestry is a thing of the past, Ron. Everything done with a tree can be done better with hemp.
You're always going to require forestry, right?
I beg to
but
differ.
You're going to require a lot less of it, an awful lot less of it. You're going to still use wood, because if you don't use wood, the forest will get in big trouble. My uncle grew forests, and my grandpa grew forests, and they understood forestry. You can't just you just let a forest grow; it will begin to collapse in on itself. But the point is that we have a product here that doesn't take 30 years to grow, and it's totally available, and the number of products that you can make from it will only expand. The more the hemp moves forward, the more products are going to come from it. So I don't think people know all the products. I know they don't know all the products you can come from.
50,000 uses for the hemp plant, Ron. And one point I'm going to make on forestry real quick, we'll hit on that just for 1 second. I want to integrate a thought there, is that sure, if a forest goes for thousands of years, it will die, it'll start to rot, it actually has a detrimental effect on the environment. But in the history of the planet, we've had massive forest fires that have wiped out tens and thousands and 50,000, 70, 80, 100, 250,000 acres of land. And it goes out, the snow puts it out, and then that land is regenerated and new forest grows. That's been going on for thousands of years.
That's the whole thing, Barry.
The only thing that I'm saying about forestry right now, Ron, sure, I agree that there has to be a management system in place for trees. If a forest dies, I know that when a tree dies, it has a reversed effect. It no longer produces oxygen, it produces carbon. That there has to be a management system in place for that. But we need trees for oxygen. We're seeing right now on the planet. What you
experienced on the West Coast, and I lived out there, and I was disgusted, and it wasn't until later that I figured out what they were doing, because the guys that are telling you, on the one hand, we can't cut trees. These are the guys that are letting the leases to clear-cut trees. Clear-cut is not a solution to anything. Okay.
Selective logging.
Well, yeah, exactly. I mean, this is how it was logged. Back in Ottawa Valley, it doesn't come in and knock all the trees down, right? They went into the bush and they cut the trees that were ready to come out, and the bush was extraordinarily healthy. And it's still extraordinarily healthy.
Right. The old growth wasn't destroyed.
Well, and the thing is, you keep a bush a balance, because what you end up with is this mono bush, whatever you want to monoculture bush, that's not healthy, right? You need all these different plants and all these different kinds of trees to have a healthy environment.
Right.
I think what we need to do.
I can agree with a lot of those points, Ron. Selective logging is the proper way. If logging is necessary in our society, then selective logging would be the way to do it. It should be the way that it's done, and nothing else acceptable. Clear cut should be a thing of the past. But what I'm saying is any product made now with wood can be made better with hemp. our 2x4s, any building construction that you want to make right now, any product that you want to make that can be made with wood can be made better with hemp. And if that revolution comes, we will never see clear cut again on this planet. Sure, there might be a need for selective logging here and there, maybe for something that can't be done with hemp on the same scale, and if it's done properly, that's not a problem. But clear cutting of the rainforest, of our forests in British Columbia, that has got to come to a stop.
Well, it should have never been clear cutted in the first place. I mean,
well, yeah, we know that.
When they first went to cut bush way back when, it was selective logging, right? And so it was these guys that set up the environmental movement. It's never been about the environment from their angle, right? It's about gaining control over everything. Like Rockefeller says, own nothing, control everything. And so they bastardize the bush. They just clear cut it, get everybody up and freaked out about it. Oh, we got to save, So the people don't seem to understand that these guys control both sides. It's like when Maurice Strong's going to run in Trudeau's government, and Rockefeller says, "Well, what are you doing that for?" Well, so I can have influence. Well, and Rockefeller goes, "Well, we already control both sides. You have more influence outside than inside, right?" So the people got to wrap their heads around that. But I'm going to send you a thing of that from that company. These are huge Lego blocks, right? Hemp Lego blocks is what the guy did, right. And they've spent I mean, they're in $20 million or something, but they're into production now, and they're like almost a 2-foot by 8-inch block. So you don't have any timber framing, and you know how they used to do it, right? You'd frame the house and then you'd fill with the hemp. This has no frame. The frame is inside the block, so when you stack the blocks, it's got the pegs, and the pegs sit on top of the pegs, right?
Right. And interlocking system.
Yes, it's brilliant. It's absolutely
it's genius.
Brilliant.
Yeah, actually, I saw a little clip on that exact same product, Ron.
Yeah, and so they had 2x2s in it before, but now they're using copper fiber because they said if we had a knot in one of the 2x2s, it really weakened the structure. So they've got this down to a fine art now, and they want to start putting plants up. And they built a huge house out in near Souk.
Well, Ron, it's like anything else. When the big screen TV came along, it was super expensive, but when it got into mass production,
that's the thing. Down. That's the thing. And well, actually, he said they've designed this wall so that, comparatively speaking, it's about the same cost to put up the hemp wall as to frame it, and then put in the vapor barrier and the insulation and the OSB board and the siding or the brick on the outside. It works out about the same price.
Well, then it's a no-brainer.
Come down.
Yeah, but then it's a no-brainer. I mean,
it is a no-brainer.
It's a no-brainer, guys. It sounds like an absolute no-brainer. If the price comparison is almost exactly the same, and if you look at the benefits of using that product opposed to wood, I think you see a major shift in the way
anybody who knows anything about building, and I've built lots, is that these houses that they're building are not healthy at all. And the hemp building, it's brilliant because it breathes. Right?
Yeah, no black mold.
You don't need
ever form
air exchangers in your house. The 8-inch walls are 27. Right. I said you can flip it the other way and go R40 with it. That'll be a lot more expensive because it's only 8 inches at a time instead of 2 feet. But you can do either way. But R27 is more than sufficient because you don't have studs in the wall. Therefore, you don't have the bridging there, right? Because the stud wall is only like max R6, 6.5, or 2x6, and R4.5 for a 2x4. So you can have a 2x6 wall and they say, well, it's R20 house. No, it's not, because if you gather up all the lumber that's in the house, it equals the end wall of your house. So if your house is 26 feet wide, that end of the house only has the insulation value of the wood. It's like there's no insulation in it whatsoever. So no, the hemp wall here solves just a whole slew of problems, and I can't wait to get involved in it.
We talked before the show.
I had a very productive conversation with them out in Calgary today. So I'm going to get a hold of the guys up in Barrie. And anyway, Barry, we're out of time. I really enjoyed my.
Hey, Ron.
Thanks, happy, bud.
Yeah, say hey to Paris and send me a picture.
Selling lies and buying time, killing people next in line. Lower classes, social slime, they don't matter. Genocide, sick from water, sick from air. Making money, they don't care. Caesar shit, force of air.